Time to time, I have the real pleasure of chatting with David Allen, the author of Getting Things Done. Now, if you are a follower of David Allen and GTD, he needs no introduction. But if you are a new convert to GTD, all I can tell you is he is the guru of productivity. And from time to time, we talk about various productivity issues here on YouTube. Don't miss any of them. Hit the subscribe button. Today, we're going to talk about the onslaught of meeting notes. I don't know if you're like me, but you can be consumed on an average day with one meeting after another. And in those meetings, you take notes. And sometimes, it takes a long time before you ever get back to those notes to process them. Sometimes you can't even remember what something meant that you wrote down. So I started by asking David Allen about the meetings that he attends and the notes that he takes. You have a lot of meetings, I'm sure, that are on Zoom or maybe some that are in person. I presume that you are a note taker, that you're always writing notes from meetings because you always say you have notepads around you to just jot an idea. I'm sure when you're in a meeting, you're doing the same thing. To what extent are you writing extensive notes when you're in your meetings, and what do you do with it?
Depends on who I'm talking to and why. These days, I'm not doing a lot of stuff in meetings that I have to capture a bunch of stuff I need to do a whole lot about. I was in a virtual meeting, early this afternoon in my time, with a new client that I'm going to be doing a remote keynote for their senior team, and I took 3 or 4 notes that I needed to about what that was about, but some of it was just so standard. So I knew once we set the meeting, she was going to send me the invites for whatever all that was. And I got enough information that was pretty obvious to me anyway, that I only wrote 3 or 4 things. I obviously wrote an article that I agreed that I would send her. So I obviously wrote that down. I mean, that's why these things are right here, right here.
Yeah.
Because God knows, even when you and I are talking, something may occur to me now that has nothing to do with what you and I are talking about. But so I can keep my attention focused on our conversation, I need to grab it quick and stick it somewhere. So I'm still, a note taker. Just I don't need to take the volume of notes that I used to years ago when I had to manage a whole lot of detail with a client,
Yeah.
and manage all that stuff.
Let me take you back to those days, because I think people like me are in that scenario where the notes that we take in meetings are important for us to remember what happened in the meeting, what we've promised to do, what other people have promised to do. When you were in that game on a much more regular basis, what did your notes look like? Were they complete thoughts? Were they mind maps? What did you do?
It was all over the map, depended on the nature of the client, the nature of the project, the nature of whatever it was. Ultimately, if I was going to do a presentation, I had a mind map template about all the questions I needed to ask a client, and I would pull up I'd pull up MindJet. I'd pull up my mind map for that client, and I would then label that file for the client, and I'd start a mind map with the template itself that said, okay, here's all the stuff I need to ask about the presentation. What's the tech like? How about dress? Who's going to be there? What are your objectives? How does this, all right. So I had my sort of brainstormed, here's all the questions that I probably need to ask or find out about. What are the key phone numbers I need